It is the fastest way. I rode, the other day I rode from,
Oh, perfect. Yeah, let me pull it up here.
Yeah.
Right. We ready to kick things off?
Yeah.
So we've got four of us. All right, we want to start with roll call. Just start us off, David.
David High. Commissioner.
Ben Barron.
Alder Young.
Glenn Davis.
And does anybody want to approve the meeting minutes from August 13th?
I will move to approve. I read them and yeah.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Right. So I'm going to start off by reading the Parks and Rec mission and vision statement. The Parks and Recreation Commission serves as an advisory board to City Council to promote and enhance quality of life by offering a broad range of safe and accessible resources, including parks, open space, trails, recreational services, and facilities which invite all to explore, play, learn, and preserve. And then the vision, Parks and Recreation Commission is committed to identify, advocate, and provide high quality and sustainable recreation, open spaces, and cultural amenities for all citizens and visitors by balancing the need to maintain and preserve the resources entrusted to us. Do we have any commissioner updates tonight?
Rode the upper section of Highway to Hell, and that was a blast. I did get some feedback from some folks. I think there's a trail that is needed from the saddle where Morning Gloria and Quarry come together to get to it, because it is a beast to get up those last two pitches to get to it. And so the immediate response from several people was, we need to link that section, those two trails, to the Lane of Pain. That was a thought.
Was there, I thought I remembered there being a reason why it starts where it does with the conservation easement. It's been a while, but I was trying to remember, I remember there was a reason why it was
I don't think it's an issue where it starts, it's getting to it.
getting to it.
Yeah, it's because you go up the road from the top of Morning Gloria or Quarry, and it's like riding up Lane of Pain, which by itself is a big deal. But
yeah,
anyway, just a thought. I actually heard that a few times from different people, unsolicited. So
Thanks. We'll look into it.
all right.
my update was also on Highway to Hell. I rode that yesterday. Awesome trail. I had gotten a lot of feedback from people that the main section of it is a pretty hard trail. And I was encouraged that the upper section is more user friendly. I think more broader user group can ride that. And then one other thing I noticed down towards the bottom, I remember when we talked about putting this trail in and Routt County Riders proposed this to us, they had talked about how it is going to cross a lot of trails on its way down and how they were going to kind of put a buffer where, you know, they'd put some tight turns in to slow people down so there's not, you know, kind of traffic crossing at like a higher speed. And yesterday riding it, like blew through another trail kind of without realizing it, and realized that there's a couple points where you have quite a bit of speed and you cross like Lupin or kind of like a pretty main trail, probably going a little too fast. And there's like some little stop signs, but I didn't even see it. So something to think about maybe when they come back next spring. It sounds like the contractor will be coming back here to look at that.
It'll be interesting to see how that section below the actual quarry develops, because there have been a lot of broken wheels, blown shocks, pinched tires. It's a pretty rough section. And I think it's not I don't think it's a lack of difficulty that they're after. I think it's just genuinely a really rough trail. So, I suspect that might be something that gets looked at, but I don't know. It'd be interesting. There's been a lot of feedback. I know a lot of people they go around that section and they come in down below the bridge.
Yeah. Anything else?
I'll go. I can go. On Monday, I met with Lynn and John from Soccer Club. They are pretty concerned about the Emerald Fields closing next summer due to the Public Works project. She heard a rumor, I don't know, she heard a rumor that maybe Excel is not quite ready to do the work that needs to be done through Emerald Park next summer. So I don't know if we can.
Atmos, yeah,
Atmos,
not an
or-
Excel
yeah,
project.
Atmos.
That would
Um,
squelch the rumor.
So I don't know if we can kind of look into that to see if that rumor is true or not.
It is Excel. There's,
Oh, it is.
Atmos is a contractor or a sub-agency of Excel. We're continuing to have meetings with them, but the date is not confirmed yet. It could potentially get pushed to 2027.
7.
Yep.
Okay.
A lot more in the next month.
Okay. Perfect.
Yep.
Um,
And we have meetings with the soccer club next week too.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay, perfect. And they have some grant money that's available to them through the Colorado Soccer Association for different fields and different stuff like that. So Linda would definitely like to collaborate with us on maybe being able to utilize some of the grants that are out there to the different soccer clubs. And she also thought there might be grants for like other sports like baseball, and that if we kind of open up a little collaboration and some communication, we might be able to kind of find some additional funding. So that's it.
And you guys are meeting with the soccer club to talk about like options for where they can play?
Yep.
Kind of get that schedule together?
Yep.
Awesome, cool. Let's see, any other updates? All right. Well, that'll move us on to public comment. This is for anything not on the agenda tonight. Parks and Recreation Commission will make no decision nor take action except to advise the appropriate party. Those addressing Parks and Recreation Commission are requested to identify themselves by name and address. All comments shall not exceed 3 minutes. Do we have any public comment in the room? How about online? All right. Well, that'll move us into our discussion items for the night. We're going to start with a Howelson Ice Arena update.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. I'm gonna share my screen. While I'm getting this set up, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Dimitri. I'm the Howelson Ice Arena supervisor. First employed with the city in 2011 seasonally, and then progressed into a full-time position in 2012, and then assumed my current role in 2014. Let's see if I can get this going. And Nick Corelli, who was supposed to join me tonight, unfortunately wasn't able to make it due to childcare reasons, but I can cover his portion of this presentation. We're going to go over a pretty high level look at the rink. I haven't done this before, so we'll look back several years, talk about current year and then future year. Personnel, budget, capital projects, electrical issue that we had, pretty major one, refrigeration plant, deferred maintenance, upgrades, as well as fleet replacement schedule for one of our 2 ice resurfacing machines, schedule usage, statistics, and programming, as well as the outdoor ice rink, and then just a quick summary. So feel free to ask questions along the way, or we can wait till the end. Current staffing levels at the ice arena, total of 6.33 FTEs. That includes 5.42 full-time staff. We've been fortunate in the last couple of years to gain 2 additional full-time staff. Equates to about 13,000 total operating hours, staff hours, which also equates to, based on our hours of operation currently, about 2 staff per hour of operation, which is pretty status quo in the rink industry. Budgetarily, we're looking at about $875,000 in revenue. That's obviously less general fund. Total operating costs in 25, a little over $1 million. Personnel at 620,000 and change. It's important to note, as you see with the asterisk below, that part of that includes a really substantial supplemental this year to address that electrical issue, over $300,000. And then looking forward into 26, fairly similar numbers. I think the important number to look at here is the cost recovery percentage. Historically, since I took over, we've operated well above 75%. With the addition of the 2 FTEs over the last couple of years, that's obviously scaled back pretty significantly. And then in addition to that, you have that supplemental, and then looking forward in 26, a fairly substantial increase in allocated overhead, which obviously impacts the bottom line. 56% falls within our 50 to 80% target range, which is adopted by council. And I'll get into some more detail about the finance side of it, but moving forward beyond 2028, we should see a positive correction to that, and hopefully get back up to that 70-75% target range. Some capital projects recently and then upcoming. One big one that we did in 2024 was the board refurbishment. These boards were approaching 30 years old. And I know there's been a lot of progress over the last 25 years with the sheet itself, but these were the original boards that they had purchased, and all the facing and kick plate had basically become dilapidated and needed to be replaced. So we spent a little over $100,000, hired a Sourcewell contractor. They came and knocked that out during our 2-week closure, 2024. Much needed. They're expected to last about 15 to 20 years. Upcoming, if it's approved, I believe it was approved tentatively, correct me if I'm wrong, is the header trench refurbishment. The header trench runs basically the width of the ice arena on the south side, and that's host to our main headers that supply and return both cold floor brine and subheat floor brine. You'll see in some pictures here how it was originally constructed. You've got these 2x8 floor joists that were fabricated around the plumbing, and you can see the bearing or load bearing there was essentially cut out. So for anyone in the construction business, that probably wouldn't pass inspection nowadays. And then that with inauspicious elements, that area is inclined to like moisture and just dark area. So the goal here is to replace that in 26 with cold forged steel. We have a full plan set for that. We'll hopefully be putting out an RFP here within the next month or two after 2 readings by council, and get that project underway sometime around spring break in 26. Should take about 5 weeks to get it done. The way it's designed now, it should last beyond the time I'll be on this earth, which is a good thing. So maintenance and improvements, especially in the last 5 years, we've made a concerted effort to get caught up on deferred maintenance, particularly as it relates to our refrigeration plant. And then in addition to that, add in as much redundancy to that plant as possible, just to create a fail-proof ice plant, so that catastrophic failure and shutdown is basically eliminated. I don't need to go through the list, but adding auxiliary brine pumps for both the cold and heat floor, essential. Coincidentally, that also is a step in the right direction for a second sheet if that does ever get built, because those will be required for that as well. We've replaced 200 horsepower compressor motors, essentially every major component in that room over the course of the last 5 years. Got a few things still pending that you see there in 26, spare glycol pump, as well as a shifts for the pulley system for the compressors and motors. This is an important one. It relates back to the budget I was talking about, cost recovery percentage. We have 2 machines. Historically, the newer of the 2 machines was on a fleet replacement schedule. And then when it reached its 15-year replacement, the older of the 2 machines, which didn't have a fleet replacement schedule, was sold off, and then the new machine bumped the newer of the 2 down to second. What that did, unfortunate consequence, is make the older of the 2 machines basically in operation for twice their useful lifespan. So last year during budget, we argued that both machines need a staggered fleet replacement schedule. We expedited this one over 4 years. That's approximately $50,000 a year increase in fleet service charges that you'd see in our bottom line. And that is, again, one of the reasons that that cost recovery percentage has dipped. We expect to get that machine in 28. We are going full electric. It's a proven model by Zamboni. And we hope to have both machines electric and aligned with the climate action plan by no later than 2035. So a good step in the right direction. Electrical issue, this was extremely taxing on really the whole city, my staff in particular, countless hours on call dealing with this. It started in late 2024. Basically, we were getting inconsistent power off the substation. Had some three-phase imbalance issues, high voltage resulting in high amperage. We burned 2 100 horsepower compressor motors, about 7 250 amp breakers. Fairly dangerous as well because it was all occurring in that plant room. And so throughout the course of this year, a lot of credit to Matt Barnard, who wasn't scheduled to work on this project, but invested a lot of time in project management on this. We collaborated with Yampa Valley Electric Association, Central Electric, and then hired a third party, RESA Power out of Denver, to figure out the causation. We found that out, and then really the only solution was to add a VFD. A lot of the equipment in there is approaching 25 years old, and it was very analog. So now, since installing that in mid-August, everything's ran essentially perfectly. The line side still has some issues, but the load side, so the plant side, is running clean. Testament to my staff, the fact that if you had asked anybody within the Rinks constituency if there was something going on, they would have not known. We were literally running on a generator for several months to help mitigate any future damage. So great crew over there. For anyone that doesn't frequent the rink, come visit us at some point. Staff there are awesome. Getting into the schedule and some usage statistics. I know this isn't the most legible thing, but this is our master schedule. And when you look at programmable hours, and when I say that, it's 5 a.m. to 12 a.m. essentially. Nearly 90% of that is programmed. If you break it down or dissect it into premium hours, which I consider outside of school or work hours, you're looking at 96 to 100% in programmed hours, primarily through private rentals. And one unfortunate consequence of that, as you can see here, is a limitation in public access. So indirectly, we're serving the public through partners like youth hockey and the skating association. But as far as general admissions go, it's hard to find a time outside of work or school hours to actually come use the facility as just the general public. That's generally peak season from September through March. We stay busy throughout the remainder of the year. But it's just important to note, and I put this presentation together before yesterday's council budget retreat, so it may have been a little bit biased toward a second sheet, but more specifics about programming. These are our basically foundation programs, stepping stone programs. They've grown exponentially over the course of the last 5 to 6 years since we partnered with these two organizations. And we're averaging about 50 children ranging from 3 to 7 years old in our Learn to Skate program. That's the most rudimentary level. The Intro to Hockey program has really blossomed. We're looking at 60 to 70 participants. And the natural progression from there is to go into the U6 age classification, join the association, and then on up. But yeah, without these programs being as strong as they are, I know those numbers don't seem large. You don't get the retention that you need to keep programs like youth hockey, skating club really prospering. Adult League Hockey, believe it or not, is our biggest user group. I know Carrie Shea and others will tell you otherwise, but we see about 350 players on average for our winter season. That tapers off slightly for spring, summer, and fall, but it's still fairly consistent. We generate well over $200,000 in all of our leagues. So that includes curling, adult hockey, summer high school hockey, et cetera. Adult curling is growing more popular, but again, we go back to the ice time issue. And unfortunately, we're only able to run quality programs during the spring, summer, and fall. We do offer a winter league, but it lands on a Tuesday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. So for obvious reasons, the participation and enrollment isn't great. It still generates revenue for us though. One slide I realized that I failed to include, which is extremely important, is our partner groups. Youth hockey, we're looking at around 200 participants. That's growing every year, especially with these foundation programs. And then on the figure skating side, although a small number, they're reaching around 50 total participants now, up from 25 right after COVID in 2022. So they basically doubled the size of their group. When you look at that schedule, the youth hockey is red and it's fairly profound. It looks like they're consuming all the ice. They are consuming the majority of it, especially during premium hours. But when you break down the amount of hours per user, because those are all segregated into age classifications, it's fairly equitable with, say, the club as far as hours per week per individual. Just a couple photos of some championship teams. Get into general admissions, and this is an interesting one. You see that we're having a steady increase. Some of that is due to price increases, but you can also see the enrollment here, participation, and that's trending up. The only exception to that is our bumper cars. At one point, we were generating about $130,000 a year. It's basically supplemental revenue, which is fantastic. Since 2022, we've seen a huge influx in private rentals, and that's obviously tied to user groups, but it's also tied to just private individuals. And with that, you start to see these downward trends, especially this blue line, which is the bumper cars. So it's quarterly, but if you look at quarter 1, 2, and 23, you're up at, $45,000-ish, and then it's starting to bounce down all the high points. And that is a direct correlation to the increase in ice sales. So you see those two don't necessarily intersect, but as one grows, the other one gets cannibalized and almost at an even level. And that's just emphasis on how at capacity we are right now. Outdoor ice rink. Hopefully some of you have had the liberty of using it. This is more of a passion project for my team and I. Takes a lot of extra effort, but we really enjoy doing it. We've set it up 2 out of the 4 years that it's been successful in the tennis courts, and that's proven to be the best spot for it. You've got containment and control. And that spot, having been down there playing with my kids, is pretty magical when you've got ski jumpers going off jumps, Nordic skiers skiing their track, stick chasers slapping gates, snow flying. It's a magical spot to be in. Howelson is in general, but that's a pretty cool rink. So I would encourage you, if you have a chance and we're successful in doing it this year again, to go down and check it out. Awesome atmosphere. Costs the city about $3,000 per year. We budget for that. It's a free amenity, which we love. And again, we put a lot of effort into it. We try and resurface it nearly every day. And it's used pretty heavily. So kind of summarized all of this here. If you want to look through the slides in more detail, feel free. This is some setup. So basically we have a little board system, a liner that we purchase every year because it gets thrashed. And then we partner with obviously Parks and Rec, Howelson Hill crew, and the water department to get this thing in place and functional. Great view of the mountain, great view of Howelson Hill. Just some more photos of the use. So quick summary and outlook. The rink right now is staffed about 17 to 18 hours. So I opened the rink at 4:45 this morning. I usually function a lot better at 5 than I do at 5 p.m. But and up to 21 hours on certain days, Tuesdays and Wednesdays in particular. That's with late night adult league games and then early morning skating. The skating club starts as early as 5:15 a.m. Like I mentioned, we're booked nearly to capacity, really have hit our ceiling. And one of the biggest problems we're having right now is just equitable access to ice time, particularly as it pertains to the public who wants to come in and just do a public skate. I was going to go in more depth on this, but given the decision yesterday to appropriate, I think it was $2 million toward the potential second sheet by council, that has to go through 2 readings. But I think, the rink's at least across the starting line. It's definitely a need, in my opinion, and it's long overdue. I have to thank the Winter Sports Club, obviously, Brian and his team, and then Brent Romick and the Rodeos team for basically forfeiting the bathroom in order to make that happen. I don't think it would have happened otherwise, so appreciate it. And with that, if you have any questions, happy to answer them.
Can you, the city council decision is new to me. I'd be curious to hear.
Was I not supposed to?
No, it was
no,
all a
it's fine.
public meeting. It
Okay.
was new to all of us.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
Yeah, yesterday, City Council hosted their annual budget retreat. The 2026 annual budget, first reading is next Tuesday, and then second reading is the Tuesday following, in which the proposed budget had 1.5 million scheduled to replace the Stables restroom. The plan was to talk with the Howelson Hill primary users and see if they wanted to enhance the building. The Howelson Hill user group has a quarterly or monthly meeting in which it was proposed to what if the 1.5 million for the Stables restroom was prioritized differently and used as a match for the second sheet of ice, as $4 million in private donations had recently come forth from those user groups, and they were asking the city for about 2 million more. So City Council yesterday provided staff direction to bring forth in the first reading of the budget a total of $2 million, 1.5 from the capital improvement fund from that Stables restroom project, and then $500,000 from the accommodations tax fund. So we expect that to be in the first reading of the budget next week.
Awesome.
Yep.
That's cool.
Exciting.
Were you guys able to project out what the cost recovery would do with a second sheet of ice, with kind of some efficiencies of having the same equipment? And
That's a great question. So every model that we've ran, including a very extensive free cash flow sheet back in 2017, has shown or suggested that as a standalone, in addition to, it would operate between 90 and 110%. And that range is highly contingent upon what the final infrastructure looks like, particularly as it pertains to like summer or off-season use. You're putting in a sport court flooring with a variety of stripes and lines that you can use for a variety of sports. So just as an example. But yeah, the cost recovery is expected to be very good with the second sheet standalone to help offset the current cost recovery at the existing arena.
that's fantastic. Thanks.
And a lot of those models we still need to update.
Mhm.
But we ran one, Alexis put one together fairly recently that validated that.
Any other questions, you guys?
All right. Thanks for having
Thank
me.
you.
Appreciate it.
Well done.
Thanks, Dimitri.
Angela, I have a question kind of regarding this, but and it goes in line as, it seems like it's awesome that the ice rink is happening, but it seems like it took, having $4 million of private donations to get it there. And I'm curious if we could, at some point schedule out a meeting that's kind of about other ways or other ideas on how to fund projects, because it seems like more and more in our community, these projects only happen if there's private dollars behind them. And it seems like that doesn't always line up with what the community needs are, right? And I see this trend more and more where, yeah, it's great when there are dollars behind things, but but it seems like that's what has to happen in order to get a lot of these projects done.
We had that field house that was 100% donated and the city said we couldn't maintain it. So they didn't approve it. So I think a lot of it comes from just being able to carry itself. Is that,
Well, and an already existing.
well, of course.
Yeah, I guess my question is like in the future, right? Like the ice arena is a great example of something that is a huge community need. You know, most of the people I talk to say that's kind of one of the most important parks and recreational needs in town. But it took having, you know, $4 million of private donations to get it there, right? But I guess the question is like moving forward is like, are there other ways to find these funds for these really high priority items, right?
Yeah. And I'd clarify, I don't want to be doom and gloom whatsoever. The city still needs to enter a fundraising agreement with the Steamboat Springs Youth Hockey Association is who it's been with in the past. So it's not a done deal, but it's absolutely on the right track.
Yeah.
I think your question's more geared towards just different funding models. Yeah, so at your next November meeting, we're scheduled to go over the 2026 budget. That'll give you a really good idea of our funded and unfunded needs. And then maybe we can pick the conversation up from there to see what the commission's thoughts are. There's lots of different funding avenues. Ultimately, that's a decision for city council, but I'm sure city council would be very happy to hear Parks and Recreation Commission's recommendations.
Yeah, I'd love that. What do you guys think?
Yeah, typically a lot of things come down to funding. I think this is the fourth iteration on the second sheet of ice. So, you know, a lot of projects out there need to be funded. And when it comes down to private funding, I think we've talked about a Parks and Recreation tax district at one point several years ago. You know, again, that would go to city council, but exploring different funding opportunities and kind of how to get there, I think would be beneficial. So whether that comes down from city council or up from us, like I'm in full support of learning more about that.
Yeah, I would support that as well. I've just over the last several weeks have thought that we should have a steady revenue income coming into Parks and Rec as opposed to just relying on city council budget. Hey, this is what you guys get every year. And it's kind of sort of different from year to year. And I think we should definitely would benefit from, okay, every year we know we're going to get X from this stream, and we're also going to get some from the CIP budget.
Yep. Awesome.
Okay, so it works to pick the conversation back up after the November budget.
That sounds reasonable.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's great. Awesome. Do we have any public comment on the ice arena update? How about online? All right. Well, that'll bring us to the Howelson Youth Sports update. Youth Sports Center update.
Good evening. I'm Brian Krill. I'm the Executive Director of the Steamboat Springs Winter Sports Club. Thanks for your time tonight. I do have Dave Stewart here, our Athletic Director, as support for questions about programming and some of our visions there. Brian Adams with Apex Architecture, who's been helping us with this plan, and John Nolting, I believe, is online as well, just as support. I also want to thank the city staff. In particular, Angela and Drew and Brad for working on this project with us over the last 2 years and then some. In your packet, there was a good history of this project and how it's been proposed over the last several years, both in the staff report and in my letter. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time on that other than to assume that the commission is aware that, you know, this project was proposed in a very different form back in, 3 or 4 years ago at this point. Since then, the headline is that we have been participating in the council-directed traffic and parking study and what was called the community charrette or Howelson Hill User Group charrette. So really the last 2 years, which is about when I arrived here, I've been engaged with that process with my team, with the city's team, with a couple council members, hockey and rodeo. So it's really important to go over that history from the sense that, yes, this is a project the Winter Sports Club is proposing, but being new to the community and new to this process and being thrown into that process as my introduction to all this, I learned a lot, and I really demanded that the club take that approach through this process. And really, this is a big deal, not just for the club, but for the community, and really learn from this process, work with our partners. Honestly, can't say how many times I heard in that process, we've never talked about this, or we've never thought about that. And I think that's a really important part to how we got where we are today. So that's another way of saying I would like to really emphasize that this is the same project in the sense that it's a youth sports center at Howelson Hill, but it's really a totally recalibrated vision of what that should be and could be. Really placing everything we learned from that process and community need and fit first, and then how can that meet Steamboat Springs Winter Sports Club core programming needs. And so it really was from where it is, how big it is, the sight lines, kind of our primary proposal for right now, which is conceptual at this point, is a total recalibration. It's not just taking the old building and putting it somewhere else. It was a total recalibration. And you can see that in some of the elements that aren't even in this proposal that were in the prior proposal in terms of especially scope and scale. And kind of one example of that being the prior iteration of this project, really the height of the building and the scope of the building was really designed around what's called a super tramp, which is a extra special, very specialized trampoline. And that was just something that, that's a nice to have in this community. Certainly some athletes at a high level would benefit from that. There's a lot of argument for actually really recreational and kids that don't even know how to do a trampoline using that because there's harnesses and stuff. But just as an example, it was like that is not a broad community need. That's kind of a niche need for the club. And so that's just not part of this iteration of the plan. So again, how we got here is important, and that we did a lot of listening and kind of a total recalibration of the project. I do want to just say before I go into the project itself, I want to also embed this in just SSWSC's impact to the community, and really emphasize that we are as much a part of the community as any organization out there. This facility is designed to serve literally every kid in town, not necessarily through our programming, but as you see in the usage that we mapped out for council, and the way the building is designed, this could host all sorts of community events, other youth sports programs, youth events, and there's really there are large spaces of time that we've mapped out that it would not be used for SSWSC programming to do that. And so that's an important element that, again, tons of community use, but also our own programs right now represent 70% of fifth graders down in the community. 70% of those kids are in regularly scheduled SSWSC programming. And overall, our numbers at about 1,200 kids in this community represent just about 50% of all kids in the community. So we are here to serve the community first. And the way we do it is through our programming. I'll remind the commission and the community too that we're very committed to accessibility. It's no mystery that snow sports are extremely expensive. And obviously we have to pay our coaches and keep up with all the expenses, but we also in doing that offer over $600,000 in scholarships, with 50% of those scholarship dollars going to household incomes of $100,000 or less in this community. So this notion that even our scholarships is a rich club given to rich kids to ski, it's just not the case. We, and 90% of our scholarship funding goes to household incomes of $175,000 or less. So that sounds like a nice income in other communities, but you try to live here. I mean, that's a teacher and a firefighter, or a, you know, two workaday parents trying to just live here, much less have extracurricular opportunities for their kids. So the reason I hit some of those data points is just to emphasize that this facility, I learned early in my career, never as a nonprofit organization, never pitch a need. Our mission is to serve needs, not have needs. So we, you know, I've learned that rhetorical trick of like, it's not like the club needs this facility. It's with this facility, we could better serve the kids, the community, and have some of our core needs met in a place where we've been doing these activities, you know, literally since the opening of Howelson Hill in the early, in the early 1900s, right? So that's enough setup.
Brian, I'm going to insert real quick. For the commission, as far as process goes, tonight's presentation is information only. Winter Sports Club has done a lot of work on this, and we asked Brian to come and present the initial facility proposal to you. It will be coming back to you in a few months. So we wanted the commission to be able to have a few months to ask questions, have follow-up meetings, and then we'll have a much more in-depth overview of process in a few months. Big thing between now and then is there will be a statistically valid community survey that Polco is currently working on. So you'll be able to have this information, then at the next meeting, what those survey results are too. And that's when we'll look for your recommendation to City Council.
Awesome.
Sweet.
Yeah, and we have some new commissioners that didn't hear this the last time, so
Yeah.
that's great.
And the building, Winter Sports Club's done a lot of work on the building since the last time you heard it too.
Yeah. So thank you, Angela. I was going to mention that tonight is in the context of pre-proposal and feedback, and that's what we're here tonight, that we're in the process of finalizing that survey. And the next step is approval to pursue this project. And that would also mean a full development proposal that obviously would come before the commission. So this is just feedback and a progress report. So I do have Brian here, so he can help walk through the plan if there's questions, but I'll just dive into some of the highlights of probably going to the site plan. Angela might be the best place to start. The next one, actually the one that's an actual photograph would be the easiest to place in context. So if that's a real, you know, aerial. If you look, the proposal for the last site was out by the gazebo and the public bathrooms there. And so if you can see, it's hard to see on this picture, but it is in your packet, that the first consideration we had at the beginning of the summer, and this came as much from kind of city staff and planning looking at it as us, is one of the primary issues in this side of the park is just connectivity and ingress and egress. There's just not a lot of good designed separation between pedestrians and foot traffic and car traffic. Where our current facility sits, which is that white box, and then there's some white awnings out in front of it. Our kids are mostly running, skipping, jumping out in front of that building, out in a lane of traffic and a busy parking lot. And then where the current facility is there, we also just identified, again, through lots of conversation with others, is there's just a lot of dead space around the current 1,100 square foot DeHaven facility. There's nothing from there out to the dumpsters. There's nothing from there to the temporary ticket office. that the city has at Howelson for ticket sales. And so the early recalibration in, May and June was, let's look at a footprint that builds this facility into the existing outrun. That helps with what we're proposing, is that opened up this whole idea of making, and the facility we're proposing would replace the public bathrooms. So those public bathrooms would go away. There's talk of, potentially repositioning that gazebo, maybe slightly, maybe more majorly. But what that does is would allow us to work with the city with this project plan and have what I'm referring to as an outer drop off. So you come in that big outer parking lot at Howelson and kind of redesign that parking lot for maximum flow and maximum parking spaces. We've mapped out being able to add anywhere from 30 to 50 parking spots in that triangle that where the prior facility was proposed, and have that be a drive-through where there'd be a drop-off essentially about where the dumpster wall is right now. Meaning that you could, if you're dropping a kid off for training, if you're dropping someone off to ski, if you're coming for an event, you could drop off, but without coming into the inner parking lot, which that's where things get really spicy. And then with that drop off being there, there'd be a designed walkway, lit, safe walkway separate from traffic. And all of that fits within the current outline of that lane of traffic. In other words, it doesn't come into what would be a contiguous lane of traffic down through the throat lot. So that was the main consideration for the footprint, which was our first, it was what is the ideal, with everything we've learned from this process, what's the ideal spot? And footprint. And that's really where what we came up with there. So I'm going to stop there because I want to make sure that's tracking for everybody. And there's no initial questions, just on the basic footprint and placement and advantages, disadvantages, and what we've looked at there. No?
Good.
Okay, I'll keep rolling then. Then I guess go back to the first floor plan, Angela. So if you look at, again, the submission that we gave to the city with the other users back in December, what we did is map that out, just sort of elements in square footage instead, just kind of seeing, what space do we need and what would its purpose be? And that we kind of came back to the two primary needs are formal strength and conditioning space, so a weight room, and then a larger space for just everything under the sun. We call it physical literacy, but that could also be other youth sports groups, that could be birthday parties, that could be a community gathering. So we really went back to those two primary spaces being our primary need, and that's what's represented here on the floor plan. We're looking down, obviously, so on the left, that would be closer to the tow house, and on the right, that would be closer to the dumpsters. The idea is that left part of the building is about a 12-foot interior ceiling. That's appropriate and adequate for a traditional weight room with racks in it and things like that. That's about 3,000 square feet. Currently, the DeHaven Center is 1,100 square feet. That really only accommodates about 25 athletes at a time, even in a 3,000 square foot space. But that's, it's 3 times bigger than the space we're currently using. There would be interior doors opening so that both spaces could be contiguous, but that space on the right would be a 25 foot interior space. Those rectangles drawn on the floor is we do want to get some indoor trampolines out of this, not any super tramp, not anything, really just for physical literacy and basic air awareness training. We're looking into products that would do that, where they would be inset in the floor so that entire square footage could be used without trampolines in there. And then obviously if you had a tramp session scheduled, those covers could come off and it could switch into a trampoline session, but really maximizing the multi-use of the space for the community. And the 25-foot ceiling is simply driven by even those regular trampolines. That's what we would need there. That puts the profile, and we'll see this in some of the next drawings. That basically mirrors the profile of the existing outrun mound. So, and we'll show that when we show the elevations. There's also in the front, there's the public bathrooms that would replace, not only serve this facility, but also replace the public bathrooms. And then on the lower left there, which is about where the temporary building sits for Howelson ticket sales. That's more, it's a little bit inside of that, but basically right where that is. That would be, we see that as being a space that we would collaborate and have part of the use agreement, that the city would use that as a ticket office, welcome center, event registration, all those things right at the corner, and make a hardscape that's a little more of a entrance to the park there. And then you would walk up to the jump flats. So that's the first floor. If you go to the next floor, there really isn't a next floor. Both of these are one-story structures, but two different elevations. But all that depicts is that you would be able to come right out of the Strength and Conditioning Center and Multi-Use Center first floor, go up and out to the lower. This is one of the things that honestly everybody I've talked to about would be really excited about, both from community and SSWC, is that the lower part of the building would be a big usable pavilion or platform, both for our programming needs as well as community event space. And then we're looking at a grading plan that would take that deck right out into the jump flats, some reasonable area that again would be ideal for running, skipping, jumping, as well as 15 minutes later after that dryland session, there could be a free concert or a community event, and tents go up on a nice flat surface up and out of the parking lot, and utilizing kind of the jump flat area more. So that's kind of what came of that. If you go to the next, all the way to one of the elevations, we can kind of show how it sits. One more. So that is a good depiction of, and Brian has, we've specifically drawn this as just a massing exercise, just showing the space that the building would take up, specifically leaving out siding and windows and doors. We're not intending to depict that, but here you can see that it really doesn't, by building it into the existing outrun mound, it doesn't even go higher than the existing mound. It doesn't block a view of the jumps. It does block a slight view of the tow house, but not even entirely. And that's of course just from that one elevation. If you go one more, these are also just kind of conceptually how it builds into that mound. And the front view, I think, that's another good depiction of how we would envision maybe taking that usable deck space and going out into the jump flats. Sorry, Angela, can you go back to the first floor again? The other big priority with this project, going back through all the iterations and something that was emphasized in various studies and plans leading up to this point, from Proster to all that, is to get rid of as many temporary structures in the park as possible. So again, the ticket office for the city would be incorporated in this building, and then those other two storage areas would replace the 3 sheds that we have sitting in the parking lot that we use for alpine tuning, gear storage. And a common need between the city and us is just functional storage that's right out at grade, out to the park. Right now, we're walking across the parking lot to get any equipment to go out onto the hill. So between the storage that we have there next to the ticket office, the storage we have on the right corner there, And then on the second floor, Angela, if you can go to that next one, this that hallway that we're showing there really could also, that we envision that probably being mostly storage, and that would be walk in, walk out onto that upper deck, and in the winter that would be ski in, ski out. So a big improvement for both city and club operations to have equipment going right out onto the park and the hill and coming back. So I'll stop there, and I'm really curious to hear any questions or feedback. Brian, how badly did I butcher your work? All right.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian.
I have a quick question. The indoor recreation community center area, I've seen some places before that have like rollout bleachers and there's like several basketball courts with also volleyball courts. I'm just having a hard time seeing the size of what this is. Like, is there any options for, I know that the perfect facility that covers everything is kind of impossible in a pipe dream, but just would a basketball court fit in there?
Yeah, it's about the size of a
Okay.
basketball court for
Gotcha.
scale. That's elementary size basketball
Okay.
court.
Right on. So it's not really specifically designed for specific other court areas.
It's not, the design we have in mind is truly multi-use, where
Okay.
if you wanted to play basketball in there, do we need another basketball court in town? That we have, I think, 7 indoor basketball courts. What we don't have is like general use indoor rec space.
Right. I'm just sort of curious as to some facilities are designed to have multi-court
Yeah.
type places with volleyball courts or, whatever. But I was just curious if that was the floor plan or what kind of field type stuff would fit in there to get a grasp of the size.
It's size wise, it's an elementary basketball court. Our plan for it would be to be super multi, so set up for any activity and then broken down and like it's just a big empty space.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
How do you see the sports club using that space, or like what do you see a majority of the use being for that space for a sports club, and then also the public?
I mean, the majority of our strength and conditioning, even for the highest level athletes, is body weight exercises these days. I mean, they certainly need a traditional weight room, but especially middle school down, which is the bulk of our kids, it's functional movement and running, skipping, jumping, and we'd have a lot of. That's why, to Calder's question, it would be, there'd be lots of things that come out that kids run around on and over and through and all that, but then they'd go up into storage and out. So not like things that are traditionally set up and there to stay. That would be the smaller traditional weight room. So to answer your question, we would do sort of everything we do with it, all sorts of activities.
And indoor for, when the weather's bad or dry land or.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And then also for space perspective, roughly Olympian Hall is about 2,500 square feet, I believe. So this is, this space represents about two times the floor plan of Olympian Hall. So we're thinking athletics, obviously, that's what we do with the kids, but it could be set up as a theater or a presentation to parents and kids. There's very few we max out anyone these days, whether it's the whole hockey community or the whole anybody community. If you try and hold an event at Howelson in Olympian Hall, it's packed, standing room only. So this would offer some space, which is why we want to design it very multi-use, where it could just host any event.
What would the flooring be like?
It'd be sports specific, flooring. So designed for, good to run, skip, jump on, but also set up a more community use for it. So
It would be interchangeable?
no, it wouldn't. It would be one surface, but designed for all those uses.
Okay, so like rubber mat, like wood varnished floor, like I'm just trying to picture. That's not picked out.
We're not to that level of specificity, but again, the most multi-use possible,
Gotcha.
where it's still good to run, skip, jump on, but not going to get trashed with a banquet or a parent meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the the last time that you guys presented this to us, and correct me if I'm wrong, but weren't there, was it office space and
Yeah.
locker room area within this building?
There was never locker room area.
Okay, there wasn't.
There was office space. The discussion for, going back years was if Steamboat Springs Winter Sports Club moved their offices out of Howelson Lodge, the city would repurpose all that space. There's been, all sorts of ideas, good ones, I'm sure, of, restaurants or city office space or Parks and Rec office space. Through the discussion, and I don't want to speak for the city, but through the discussion and the current economics of the city's budget, there's no plan or funding for doing that. That would be a pretty expensive project, and that's been one of the harder balancing acts. Is that another 2,500 square feet, and we could put offices in there. The last thing I want to do is sell offices to the community. Or that's, and I think in a way the city's in the same spot where, Parks and Rec, but that's why we've designed some space in there for both our functional usage and theirs. There's 2 small offices on that first floor, really just for the people running the facility. So I think that's an ongoing discussion with the city and a broader discussion of like, where does admin space go? But the tightness, like literally to the inch of a building at Howelson, we want to prioritize space for kids to do what we do with them, not administrative space.
Cool.
Brian, how do you envision sort of drop off and pick up, especially with those younger kids? And then I also know there's a lot of kids that use the bottom of Howelson Lodge to, mom and dad drops them off with their big bag and they go in and they change, they get their boots on and they go out to training, carrying those big bags, trying to get a 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old, not even a 9 or a 10-year-old after they're done training, kind of more specifically, I guess, kind of also the pickup.
Yep.
How do you guys envision that going? Because I know a lot of parents with those younger kids kind of come into the drive, kind of find the lane spot, jump out of the park, jump out of the car, go grab their kid, get back in, and, kind of the flow sort of continues.
Yep.
How do you envision that happening now with, kind of having the big drop off over by the gazebo parking lot?
Yeah, so I think largely what we're doing now, but with that other option, with that outer drop off, we would probably look at certain age groups having privileges to come in and drop off in the inner lot, and certain age groups getting dropped off at a well-lit designed walkway with a railing between them and traffic coming in, because right now there isn't another drop off that's safe and adequate other than right at the lodge there.
Right.
And so if you drop, if a parent with a middle school kid drops them off, there's no turnaround, there's nothing out there, and it's dark. And so I wouldn't recommend that right now. The idea would be by adding that, we would have another option. Right now, we only have one option. And I will, so a lot of it would be the same in the sense that inner lot, the inner Howelson Hill Lodge lot, there is no parking there weekdays during the winter, during the week when we're training. It's only pick up and drop off. As you're describing, it doesn't work super well, but that's only used for pickup drop off. If we had another option, we would manage it that much more closely, where only certain people would have privilege to come all the way into the inner lot, and other people would be encouraged to drop off at the basically at the dumpsters, and walk on a lit, defined path right into the lodge area.
Okay, so you guys would have like a turnaround or a circle there at the dumpsters?
Correct. Yeah. If it's
Those
not showing up on the plans, there's there would be a one-way flow through drop off, and then you'd go right out the throat lot again. So you wouldn't have to come in past the dumpsters or into the inner lot.
Okay.
So I think, we're staging that. Does it solve all the problems? No. Would it be a big improvement? Yes. and also for community events. Most community events that take place at Howelson, that inner lot also goes away. It becomes a vendor village or, team tents or whatever have you. So to have a place where there is an actual outer drop off and you can pull right back out would be in effect for a major community event at Howelson as well.
Really good question. Yes, there's talk of it regularly. We get that question pretty frequently. What we found from our charrette parking traffic study that we did the last 2 years is the summer use of Howelson actually far exceeds winter use of Howelson, specifically volleyball, tennis, pickleball, and those ball fields. There's enough discussion. I wouldn't be surprised if years into the future, a ball field was repurposed once additional fields are established elsewhere. But currently that's not in any plans, it would offset user groups. Our local users utilize those ball fields far more than visitors from out of town, like Triple Crown. David, is your mic on?
There we go. I shut myself up. Is there a, sorry. Yeah, it seems like a greater demand for volleyball, parking at the ice rink, everything but softball, but.
Yeah, we thought that could be a likely outcome of the charrette study. We entered that wondering if that would be a result, and it wasn't.
Surprising.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
I'm glad you asked Angela, not me. But I will weigh in on that. That came up a lot.
You don't have to.
Well, I think it's good to have our perspective on it would be that we believe that that conversation should continue to happen. Where the overwhelming feedback, as Angela just said, from the charrette process is that may happen someday, but it may not happen in Howelson. In other words, a big rec center or something like that. And so the proposal that we're discussing here for the Winter Sports Club, we're not trying to bill it as the sports barn or the rec center, or the placement of it is very important. We feel the placement that we're proposing is very future-proof. In other words, it's the footprint we're currently using for that use. It's built into the outrun, which I don't think anybody in the community ever wants to see go away for historic ski jumping. And if a ball field goes away, if there's other ingress or egress, which I believe would be well down the road at this point, this doesn't hinder those future plans, and is a core need that would still be served by this facility for both the club and the community.
I see that facility being used a lot, and
yeah,
it's great to see that it's a public benefit as well as the kind of the core group of athletes in the club. So I think it's great. Thank you.
Have you guys, and you might not have in this process yet gotten to this, but have you discussed like what those hours, like I assume it would be like kind of like we saw the ice rink schedule up there, like what those hours would be where it is community use versus sports club? Yeah.
And again, we're in the that depends on approval of the scope and scale. So that's this catch-22. If it's bigger, we could do. But in your packet, what we submitted to City Council back in December does list out the hours the club would use this facility and the hours it'd be available for other uses. And it's extensive. One example being, we don't have any club programming at any time during the weekend in the summer. That isn't necessarily a time right now that there's like, I don't know that the city is jumping up and down around weekend programs and things like that, but there's plenty of need in the community for a youth activity center in the summer. We don't do weekend programming all summer. that we've talked to Boys and Girls Club about their biggest need is when there's in-service days and days off school. We go out and do our regular training on those days. We don't necessarily have strength and conditioning training on those days. So there's some good synergy and big chunks of time that could be used by the community. And that is that's in that packet, and we break it down seasonally.
Awesome.
Yep.
Thanks, Brian. Any other questions for Brian?
Sounds exciting. Sounds exciting.
Yeah, thank you. We're excited about it. We've listened. I was very pleased to go through the process of the last 2 years, because we learned a lot about how this could better fit the community and meet our own needs.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for all your work on this.
Miss anything, Dave? All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks, Angela.
Yeah, there will be.
On this issue?
Yep. Yeah, that's what we're going to move into right now. Do we have any public comment in the room for this venue?
Good evening, Chris Wilson, 500 Anglers Drive, Unit 104. I'd just like to thank Brian and Angela and the team that Brian put together to take a very contentious project that was ready to cut loose in our community. And Brian took the synergy and collaborative efforts, the city with the charrette process, really described a lot of questions about parking and issues in a very detailed manner, talking about scheduling, eventing, and management. In your packet, the material that was provided is very detailed, very informative, and helps. Mr. High, Counselor or Commissioner, the poster, the Parks and Rec Master Plan, has a lot of good material about use and future use. Brian and the group incorporated much of that master planning, as he mentioned, about removal of buildings and those. So those comparisons of your master plan and where the group took this plan is really good to see those two married together. And again, thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Any public comment online? All right. I'll move us into our third topic tonight, glyphosate.
All right. Oops, let me get organized here. Okay, let me share my screen. All right. Welcome and good evening. I'm happy to be here. Welcome to session 3, glyphosate use within parklands. You know me, hopefully by now, Stephanie Monroe, Deputy Director for Land Management in the Park and Recreation Department. This evening, I am joined with 3 important staff members. I believe Johannes Thorensen, our Parks Supervisor, is online listening. He is ill today, so he's listening and will help out as needed. Jenny Carey, behind me here, Trails and Open Space Supervisor, and Andy Pryor, who is our Park and Recreation, Open Space, and House and Hill Foreman. After receiving public comment, the City Council directed Parks and Recreation Commission to review and discuss the use of glyphosate within City of Steamboat Springs Parkland systems. This evening's agenda will consist of the review of the first session in June and the second session held in August. Based on the commissioner's feedback during session 2, this evening's session 3 will focus on herbicide alternatives, policy audit options, and mapping application sites. We will also discuss process improvement and recommendations that we have learned from this opportunity to assist the commissioners to formulating a motion to provide to City Council. So at the June 11th, Session 1 Parks and Recreation Commission meeting, I introduced the discussion item regarding the use of glyphosate in city-managed parklands. The purpose of that presentation was based on education and information. We wanted to foster informed dialogue, outline our current department practices related to the use of pesticides within the city parklands. The commission at that time, you all requested additional information, and then session 2 focused on the safety, further details on application areas, and a scientific presentation led by Lisa Bleckner from our CU Extension Service Partner. The Land Management Division adheres to the outlined pesticide use policy in our department. We shared this policy with the commission during the session 1 as introduction. As overview, the policy provides staff with policy and procedures to follow, such as compliance with local and state and federal guidelines and regulations, follows best practices that are governed and outlined by the Department of Agriculture. And this policy holds the department accountable in different areas. 1, compliance, licensing, IMP, program, proper pesticide selection, and application. So within those, under compliance, all pesticide applications must comply with laws and pass pesticide certification through that State of Colorado Pesticide Applicator Act. Licensing and certification processes, full-time staff will hold certified operator, COs, or qualified supervisor, CS, certifications through the Department of Agriculture. Staff then are trained annually, and then our seasonals work under the supervision of either those COs or CSs. The policy also includes that integrated pest management program known as IPM. Pesticides should be underneath this program. Pesticides should be used as part of the IPM program. This is prevention, culture, control, mechanical, and biological control. Will be considered first and utilized where appropriate. Policy also outlines pesticide selection, only using pesticides approved for specific site and pest control. And then it also finally adheres to the application schedule by applying pesticides during off-peak hours to minimize public exposure, and that usually is preferable in early morning. So moving on, just to kind of understand that IMP program, the Integrated Pest Management Program, known as IMP, is integrated within the pesticide use policy as that attachment and policy that we've been going over. The IMP policy provides the Park and Recreation Department with strategies to control those noxious weeds and other invasive plant species. The IMP outlines different control methods that are implemented as part of the comprehensive and environmentally responsible approaches to removal of those weeds. And as shown in this slide, these methods include that cultural, biological, mechanical, and chemical approaches. And I'll quickly run through this. This shouldn't be new material, but I'll just give a quick highlight. Cultural methods are used following a restoration practice, reseeding of a disturbed area to quickly bring back native seeds. Sometimes we refer to that as overseeding. Biological methods are used for natural predators to manage specific species. In session 1, I gave the example of the use of weevils that we've done in the past. And mechanical, such as hand pulling or mowing. Keep in mind with those certifications and underneath this policy, staff are trained to identify those minor infestations of plants, and they can evaluate which method is best for it. And generally, and our first rule of thumb is to go with that mechanical method approach. And then finally, that last resort, chemical methods are used. White top is an example of a noxious weed and is an example of a weed that typically requires several years or applications to manage that treatment area. So moving on, following the discussion during session 1, the commissioners requested additional information to support future policy considerations, public understanding. Specifically, the Park and Recreation asked for further information on the scientific background, safety information related to glyphosate. Clarification and application areas came up where we are currently spot spraying training. I'm thinking ice here. Spot spraying within the city parkland systems. And then that session focused on that science of herbicides presented by Lisa, who is that pesticide safety instructor as part of the CSU Extension Services. She overviewed much of the science, a very detailed presentations of the science of pesticides, the safety, and best practices. In previous sessions, we shared what glyphosate is and how Land Management Division uses it and applies it. The important to this discussion this evening is the selection process of herbicides and the test plots that will be discussed later on this evening. There are 2 different categories of herbicides. One is selective, the other one is non-selective. That selective herbicide is a pesticide that are used to target a specific type of plant species without affecting the growth of other species. And a non-selective is a pesticide formula used to eliminate all vegetation that it's applied to. So in our case here, glyphosate is a non-selective herbicide and is applied to leaves of plants to kill both broadleaf plants and grasses. All right, this slide is also something that we've shared the last couple sessions. The Parks and Recreation Department uses glyphosate to minimally and in a controlled setting. We do this with spot spraying or bare ground applications, targeted treatments in specific areas where vegetation needs to be eliminated. And these areas are such as these warning tracks, those gravel or dirt paths along the edges of sports fields, hardscapes, paths like sidewalks and plazas, along the Crusher Fine Trail, such as the Core Trail, and then of course those medium applications. The slide shows examples of these areas that we would typically, and typical weeds that would qualify for this type of application. And these pictures were taken either last year before spraying season, or many of them are this season's pictures of what it would look like before spray. Okay, so recap. To summarize, session 1-2, session 1 consisted of providing that overview of policy, providing some good education and dialogue and public engagement. Session 2 provided an understanding of employee safety and safety compliance regarding herbicides through a detailed scientific presentation offered by our CU Extension program partners. And as the sessions have progressed, by applying commission requests and listening to the community, we have attempted to provide additional information at each session while along using this opportunity to learn and improve as a system and as a department. For session 3, the commission asked to provide more detail on herbicide alternatives, audit options, spray maps, and staff have evaluated and added additional process improvements, again, the learning and the improvement along the way, and we will provide that to you this evening. Okay, this slide represents the year over year on a graph, table form, and the following several slides will outline the usage of glyphosate in our parks and trails. In 2024, we used a total of 80 ounces. That's about 5/5 of a gallon, primarily along soft surface areas such as the core trail and around kiosks. These treatments kept vegetation from encroaching into high traffic areas without impacting surrounding plant life. In 2025, the usage we did increase to 206 from this last spray season from 80. That's equivalent, 203 ounces is equivalent to approximately 1.5 gallons. This increase was due to expanded efforts to control invasive species such as bindweed and spotted knapweed. So those are noxious weeds, plants that do need higher attention, as well as grasses in the median and along the trails. We treated 6 specific locations this year, including Iron Springs, Yampa Street median, several trail segments using spot treatments and bare ground applications where mechanical methods just isn't practical. I'm going to highlight here, it's important to note that we do continue to follow those best management practices to ensure those treatments are effective, limited in scope, environmentally responsible, applying to only what is needed to protect our trail system, public safety, and native habitats. Okay, these next few slides, Parks and Recreation Commission, you all requested that staff present a spray map. So we put effort into the next several slides to show where we sprayed in a map version to help identify where those ground treatment areas are. This first map shows an overview of all areas, so kind of zoomed out approach. It's difficult to read on the slide, but it is in your packet as well as an attachment. Again, these were 2025, so this season spray. Moving forward, again, we've broken out each slide by its site of its individual spray map. And this first one is actually combined with Rich Weiss Park. So Bear River Skate Park is the site on picture here. Combined with Rich Weiss, we sprayed on the same day consisting of 52 ounces for both areas. This was spot spraying and ground treatment areas. Next up, this slide is Iron Springs, where 26 ounces were used to treat bindweed and grass. Next site is Yampa Streetscapes, and that consisted of 65 ounces along the core trail at 12th Street on the corner there. Snake Island, along the Howie Snake Island Tunnel, 20 ounces was applied. And again, this is a snapshot of Bear River and Rich Weiss. This is Rich Weiss Park. Again, sprayed on the same day with a total of 52 combined with both areas. Again, this was the main treatment was that spot spraying of the ground. Fish Creek Trail, 20 ounces was applied for noxious spotted knapweed. And then I think I have one more. Finally, the end of the core trail, 20 ounces was applied also to treat that spotted knapweed. Okay, moving forward, I have a very special guest, Andy, to join us for the next few slides, but I'll do a quick introduction. So at the commissioner's request from the last session, staff researched, tested several alternative herbicides through test plots. And I'm going to hand it off to Andy to walk over this slide as well as the next several slides. Andy was the one he's one of our spray certified spray operators. And he's helped tremendously with the coordinating, the managing, the working out with the data, collecting and the follow-up and findings. So I'm going to pass it off to Andy, and he's going to take us through the next several slides. Andy.
Thank you. Hello. So the next several slides are going to show the test plots I did at the council's request, and we tested out 6 different herbicides. Several we were able to purchase in town, but 2 we had to order. They weren't available. So there's some time difference between 4 and then the other 2. And that's the reason you'll see on the slides that the date is different. But I'll just go through this first slide quickly. Roundup Pro, which is the aquatic Roundup that we use, is glyphosate. We saw 90% plus control. I would put it closer to 100%. It's signal word, which is what, if you're not aware, pesticides have a signal word written on them so that you can immediately tell how toxic it is. And especially for someone certified, you know what you're getting into. And it's for, anybody can see the big word written on the label to know exactly how it should be handled. So glyphosate does require the least amount of protective equipment. Gloves and eyewear are all that are required for glyphosate. The next one is Cheetah Pro. And forgive me, I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce this. Glufosinate. We also saw great control with it as well. It also has a signal word of caution, but in the label requirements, it does require a bit more PPE. Specifically, I want to point out the coveralls, which is one of the only ones other than vinegar that really steps up the amount of PPE user would have to wear, and chemical resistant boots. The next one is Spectracide, and I want to point out that it's a combination of 3 different pesticides, and they do that to help control more species of plants. And we saw 80% of control on that. Again, signal word is caution. And this one is a bit less than the Cheetah Pro. It's just gloves, eyewear, and boots. The next one is Roundup. Interestingly, Roundup no longer contains, at least the commercially available Roundup, you can buy it like Ace or something like that, no longer contains glyphosate. It's also a mixture of 3 different pesticides. And again, we saw about the same as the Spectracide, 70 to 80% of control. Again, signal word of caution, and the same PPE as Spectracide. The next one is Fiesta. This one, I have to admit, I originally tested adding this to because it's a selective, and that means it controls some species, doesn't hurt others. So that's part of the reason we saw absolutely no control on the test plots. We were, because it doesn't hurt grass, and the majority of the test plots were grass. It's, again, low signal word caution, and gloves and eyewear. The last one was vinegar, are also known as acetic acid. The vinegar we used was a 30% concentration, no control, and it has particularly want to point out, it has a signal word of danger, which is significantly higher than any of the other pesticides we use or that were in the test plots. It requires an entire face shield to use and is basically one of the most dangerous chemicals I've ever dealt with. That sounds surprising, being vinegar, but it's like many other things, it's about the concentration levels. And the concentration levels you need to kill stuff are high. So again, PPE, gloves, face shield, chemical resistant boots. And so that just kind of breaks down what we saw in the test plots. The next one, since Glyphosate and Cheetah Pro both saw the same amount of control, have the same signal word, nearly the same PPE besides the coveralls and resistant boots that I mentioned. This just breaks down the price because it's almost 3 times more expensive than glyphosate. We did see great control with it. So it would be interesting to kind of move further with that. But, budget is something we have to always consider, but it is much more expensive. These are just some pictures from the test plots I did. And this is me. This is the first test plot. And you can see in the first picture, we did all within a week of the day I sprayed and then a week later. And so it's kind of hard to tell because the whole area was drought stricken. So it was, everything was kind of brown in the first place. But you can see the kind of drastic change between the first picture and the second picture. This one is Cheetah Pro. And again, the reason for the week later is because being able to access the Cheetah Pro, we had to order it. And you see it has nearly the same control as the glyphosate. You see a nice green-brown patch on the left and a completely brown patch on the right. And this is Spectracide. And you can see this was a different grass species, but we did get a pretty good control, it didn't kill everything in the square, basically. And again, a week later for each of those pictures. The third one is Roundup. Again, this is 3 different pesticides, not glyphosate. And as you can see, we did get some control, just not completely as much as the Cheetah Pro or glyphosate. This is the Fiesta, and it's kind of hard to tell, but we got no control because these test plots were majority grasses, and Fiesta is designed to be a selective to not hurt grasses. It's specifically for turf management. It's for broadleaf species. And so we didn't get much control with that. This next one is the acetic acid vinegar. I'm sorry, I misspoke. It's 20% concentration. But as you can see through the 2 pictures is that there was almost no change to the vegetation, and the amount of control we got was minimal while the PPE was greatly increased.
You look cool.
Thank you. That's a good reason to wear PPE, is look better. But yeah, if y'all have any questions, but those are the test plots I did. Those are the results I got. And from my point of view, Cheetah Pro and glyphosate definitely handled the best. And from a user point of view is, you always want to reduce your personal risk when using a pesticide. And so the ones that signal word caution and the least amount of PPE are always going to be higher on my list than ones that require more.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Andy, if you were faced with a task of going and controlling some weeds, and you had your entire selection of chemicals to use, what would you use? What would you pick up? Glyphosate.
I've used it for years. And again, we use integrated pest management. It's not, we just go spray these weeds. We, consider the environmental effects, what we, are able to do. Is it able to be accomplished just by pulling the weed? Are we going to leave roots? And I know glyphosate kills the entire plant. I've never had ill effects. I have dogs and stuff that love to eat grass and everything like that. And I know that especially in the quantities we use it, It's just really not a concern. And it's something that it's highly effective. And it's one of those things that you can develop resistance in weeds. So if you spray something that only kills a little bit and not all of it, the little bit that didn't get killed by the pesticide can propagate further, and then that pesticide doesn't work on any of it. And so, you know, chemical resistance is a concern we put forth, and the amount of control we get, we want to get as close to 100% as possible, because 10 years down the line, we may have to keep switching pesticides and go to stronger, more toxic pesticides just to take care of the same species.
Thank you.
Oh, no problem. Any other?
All right, we will have time for questions. So if you have more come up for Andy or any of us, will be available. Okay, thank you, Andy. Okay, so the current herbicide, so auditing. Our current herbicide use policy is reviewed annually internally and offers a review of those procedures, policy, training efforts of our department and the team. This is conducted by the parks supervisor, who is also the department's certified spray supervisor. Our operations remain fully compliant with the state and federal pesticide regulations through both internal procedures and external oversight. This is because in that policy, we follow the Department of Agriculture in compliancy, which enforces the Pesticide Applicators Act. This is a governed policy how pesticides are applied and are managed in the field. The CDA conducts office audits and field inspections. They do this with reviewing best record-keeping practices of those operators. They look at PPE used by staff, the weather conditions during the application, and proper posting of required signage. Certified operators must maintain detailed records of all of this for a minimum of 3 years and notify individuals listed on our pesticide sensitivity register before applications occur. And if any issues are identified, the CDA works with the operators to implement corrective measures, ensuring continued compliance and accountability. So in summary of our internal audit, we are following and applying these measures regularly and annually. And because of that system that's integrated with the CDA and the Colorado Department of Agriculture and the rules and regulations outlined, there is an internal audit process already. The Parks and Recreation Commission requested that we explore a third-party audit, which we did, and we started by connecting with our peer cities, Durango and Jackson, Wyoming, as well as consulted with the Routt County Weed Program Coordinator and inquired about this with our CU Extension partners. The two peer cities provided the following feedback. Durango no longer uses the glyphosate, but confirmed that Steamboat's practices remain consistent with their previous approaches, practices, and policies. Jackson's, Wyoming, they currently do not have a herbicide policy within their system, department, or city. They have expressed, though, interest in using Steamboat as a resource for their future development and would be open to sharing data, collecting back and forth from organization to organization, and sharing process improvements once they and if they get a policy established. Moving on, talking to our consulting with the Tiffany Carlson, who is the Routt County Weed Program Coordinator. We learned that she is unable to provide a formal third-party audit. She recommends that developing a city-specific weed management plan tailored to Steamboat's land use, demographics, and public spaces would be her recommendation. She also did suggest piloting the use of an alternative herbicide in a park that is currently used with glyphosate. And then additionally, we learned in this process in talking and looking at Routt County's weed management program, we learned that compliance with the Colorado Noxious Weed Act requires an updated weed management plan every 3 years. The county does have this, but the city of Steamboat Springs adopted their obnoxious weed plan in 2021. Routt County updated their plan in December of '23 and put it into action in February of 2024. So therefore, an updated city resolution is needed for alignment with the county's plan. And we will discuss that component here in a few minutes when we talk about process improvement. And then finally, the feedback that we received from CSU Extension Services, Todd, he and I had a conversation and he indicated that the roles and qualifications would not permit them being a third-party audit. He suggested that we follow the Colorado Department of Agriculture, which enforces the Pesticide Applicators Act, which again is included into our current practices and policy. They supported the Parks and Recreation Department annual review. It's something that most organizations don't do, of the herbicide use policy and overview and review of that annual standard operating procedures. And also pointed out that by following these practices, we continue to use our current practices of using our certified operators and certified supervisor as part of our auditing process. So in summary, and reaching out to our peers and subject matter expertise, we feel that we are compliant to the industry best standards when it comes to herbicide use. Okay, we talked in session 1 about our 2025 process improvement. We already put these into play by the time we had presented at session 1. But just to quickly go over these, the following improvements have been put into this season's practice. Our operations remain, wrong note. We intentionally increase the use of signage. When possible, we are adding or have added communication to a prominent visible area or entryway by using an A-frame or similar signs. Trails are a little bit harder to put that posting, but we did attempt to do that in all areas this year. And then we added that 10-foot buffer. And these process improvements, these process improvements were added because of that internal talk. We really sat down together as a group, as a team, looked at that policy and discussed what could we do differently to make this a better process to improve the procedures as it is already written. And one of the things that came out of that, our parks team came up with a 10-foot buffer of no spot spraying around all playground areas within parks. So that was a nice addition that we added this year. And then
Repeat that? I'm sorry, that last part, could you repeat the change?
The 10-foot buffer around playgrounds.
Okay,
in
and the
park.
spot? The spot?
Yeah, so we have put a 10-foot barrier of no spot spraying around all playgrounds. So for instance, Whistler has a playground right there, in the section of the park, 10-foot buffer around that playground area. There would be no spot spraying whatsoever. The Parks, Open Space and Trail Department conducts an annual review, which we talked about, of the herbicide policy, determine process improvements for the next spray season. That is done annually and is documented on that policy. And staff supervisors complete an annual application log audit, so of their record keeping. Okay, 2026, as part of our learning and annual review, we recommend the following process improvements for the 2026 spray season. We would like to update the city resolution to reflect the adopted Routt County Noxious Weed Management Plan from the 2021 adoption to take us through that to the 2027 year, so 3 years. We want to also engage and collaborate, ongoing collaboration, education, and advisory efforts with the Routt County Weed Program and Weed Coordinator. And then launch a 3-year pilot program replacing glyphosate with an alternative herbicide, which we're recommending Cheetah Pro along the Yampa Street corridor. I just want to go back to a couple findings that we found with those test pilots that Andy was talking about. Given those results of the Cheetah Pro, staff recommends moving forward with trying a pilot project using Cheetah Pro as the herbicide alternative. The goal would be to designate a specific park or an area where we can evaluate how it performs under real-world conditions. Andy mentioned that we were nearing the end of grow season, so and it was a very drought. So just really taking it into a real-life application and site. And then during the pilot, we'll track effectiveness. We spoke a little bit about how it may or may not be effective down into that root system and what that would look like over a 3-year period. Obviously, cost, staff time, and overall operation impact to help determine whether this product could be scaled for broader use for the future. I think this approach allows us to balance that environmental safety and practical maintenance needs, as well as that fiscal responsibility. So jumping back to my process, and so I just wanted to hit that because I wanted to make sure you understood what launching that 3-year pilot program recommendation would look like. Again, with the Cheetah Pro, the pilot will assess the weed control, the effectiveness, the product usage, customer feedback, cost, and staff resources. These results can be summarized in an annual evaluation report to help guide future management decisions and inform potential system-wide use. And I don't know if I said this already, so forgive me, but we're recommending that park site would be Yampa Streetscape Corridor. So I can take you back to that picture if you'd like to see. It's kind of on the edge of 12th and Little Toots, that entire corridor of Yampa. It's called our Streetscapes site. And then finally, as a process improvement to consider, develop a citywide weed management plan through a motion based on recommendation process from the Parks and Recreation Commission to the City Council. And that was something that we kind of, in talking with the weed coordinator at Routt County, suggested having something that is not the same as the Routt County. She didn't recommend cutting and pasting and just putting Steamboat. Because of the different uses that we are involved in, she recommended that we apply something citywide that would nest up into their management plan. Okay, I think I am at the end. So before public comment and board discussion, does the board have any questions for myself, for Andy, Johannes online, potentially Angela or Jenny, that we can help answer any questions? That was a long, kind of a quick presentation. So please let us know if there's any confusing facts.
No, that was great. Thanks, Stephanie. A lot of stuff to recap. You guys have any questions?
I appreciate all the work you've done on this. You guys have done on this. That's a tremendous amount of work.
Thank you.
I think one of the things that would be really valuable is if something gets presented to council is to know how many hours of work was done to come to this conclusion. I think sometimes council as we all do, get in our heads what we believe is correct or might be a piece of information and I think in my experience, understanding the amount of work and effort that goes into it, somehow quantify that would be really helpful. And the amount of work that Andy put into it and all you guys put into it would be maybe a good number to come up with. And it can be an estimate between however many hours and however many hours might speak well to the efforts to provide good information for them.
And maybe dollars too. I mean, like money and time are related. Oh, just answering questions sometimes costs money.
Sure. We can certainly do that. And I will just say that this has been a process. It's been a learning process for us as well. It's been valuable. And I think having these sessions have evolved in learning for you as well. So we're happy. This is our job. We're happy to do it, but I do understand.
Yeah. And then I also think that it probably provides some edification for you from the staff in terms of knowing that this is really in the best interest for them as well. So.
Absolutely. And I couldn't have done it without my staff. So they're incredible. And I thank them for all of the help and the support that they've given. So thank you. I appreciate that. Other questions?
I just wanted to confirm on the site map, that is those are the only places you guys were spot spraying.
This season, correct?
Okay, we weren't like spraying in Emerald Park or Whistler Park or,
No.
okay.
Anything you see that might look like that is probably fertilizing, things of that nature. I think
Okay.
it can get confusing for the community at times.
Yeah, I know there was some community concern that maybe at our more popular, bigger parks that we were using this chemical, where kids were kind of rolling in the grass and,
Glyphosate could never be utilized in grass turf area.
Okay.
It would kill. the
kill it.
grass.
Okay.
Again, it's just for that, I don't know what happened to the map there, so maybe it's just taken a while to reload, but it's for that bare ground, that spot treatment, such as, the best example I think is along like the baseball field, if I can find that here, along like a baseball field, the warning track, the picture on this slide, the warning track. That's an important feature for the play of baseball or softball. It tells players where the turf is ending and where soon they're going to run out of room. So having that clear of weed to be able to, one, feel it, and two, for the safety and playability is a place where we'd spot spray. Also, if we didn't spot spray there, that and bare ground in that area using that application, then eventually those weeds could grow into the turf and then take over that turf as well. So we generally don't touch that turf. It's too pretty and important to be able to put glyphosate in it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. And that question has come up quite often, so thank you for keep asking that question.
I think one of the visuals that I was after at the very beginning is, where is this used? And I think that the most powerful point that you have is that map and those photos. And so I know that there is a particular councilman who absolutely just wants to be done with glyphosate. And I guarantee you, he has no idea how little it is used and where it's used. So I think that is a public perception thing. I think there should potentially be a glyphosate link on our Parks and Rec webpage that says this is where it's used, and have that map be the first thing that pulled up, because I think that would probably solve a lot of perception issues.
Yeah, so thank you. And that would be part of the component of that weed management plan. And we can certainly look into maybe having some sort of a map layering system through our GIS as well. But you are absolutely right. That would be a nice, not only glyphosate, but it would show where all of those herbicides, because it's not just glyphosate that we use. Right?
And I think that, again, more perception is that when you see a staff in Whistler Park wearing PPP and it's just going to be assumed that that is glyphosate that's being applied. And the reality is that's not.
Sure.
Could you go back to the options?
Of course.
Thank you.
Give me a minute here.
I think we're ready to do a motion.
We gotta
Public-
discuss and then
Yeah.
public comment. We can do it.
Would you like me to put those up during public comment or on share?
Yeah, you can leave them up there. All right, we're going to move into public comment here. Do we have any public comment in the room?
No, that's fine. Thanks. Chris Wilson, 500 Anglers Drive, Unit 104. As Commissioner High said, Stephanie, Jenny, and Andy have done an amazing job of pulling together all your questions in the broader scope of a weed management plan. The only two things that I would like to suggest for your consideration is, number one, nothing. Recommend number two, City Council and Parks and Rec maintain its current practices and include outline process improvements, which include city resolution. That is required, but I want you to know and staff to think about as well, that's really only a bridge because resolution adopting the county's plan does not meet the Noxious Weed Act. And let me read what that says for you. The mandatory plans, the law states that the governing body of each municipality, and in quotes, shall adopt a noxious weed management plan for all lands within the territorial limits of the municipality, which you're saying you're going to do. And there was discussion of that. And that council's always looked to Parks and Rec to be the lead group to bring together the streets department that does spraying, work with the planning department that does code enforcement, and talking with Tiffany Carlson, the county plan, as Stephanie mentioned, or weed supervisor, she said the same thing. She said, the county's weed management plan speaks to county properties, big areas, roadways, not urban parks, playgrounds, ball fields. And so we need to develop a plan that speaks, one, to the Noxious Weed Act, but also better defines. And you've got all that information now with all the work that Stephanie and you have done to bring that together. The other thing that I'd ask that you add to that is a time frame. We know how things tend to get moved down the line. I would like to suggest that you look by the start of next weed season, that's 6 months away, to develop the city's noxious weed plan and bring it back to this group to look at, have any clarifications, and then take it on to city council so that we actually are underneath the act. And those are the only two things. Otherwise, again, number 3, I agree with. Andy and I both are weed warriors. And as you look at it, the problem with glyphosate, when you use it, Stephanie had mentioned in one of your sessions that you use glyphosate on knapweed in open space. The problem is you cannot be directed and not kill other things. So there's a cultural component, as Stephanie mentioned, which is overseeding. If you use glyphosate in broader areas, you're going to kill the grass. That opens up the seed bank for weed seeds that are already there and the seeds that have come from the plants if you didn't get them sprayed in time. So that element, glyphosate, also if you go on the county's noxious weed, they've got a great element in there that talks about the weed and biological, cultural, and chemicals. And there's a list of chemicals they give that are brand names, but those can tell you which ones to use. On White Top, glyphosate is there, but they specifically say, if you use this, plan to do a reseeding project, and you need to do the reseeding project with the same seeds and vegetation that's there. Otherwise, you'll get problems. So great job. Thank you very much. And I just recommend that one change about the plan.
Thanks, Chris. So my understanding is, can somebody explain the difference between the city resolution and the citywide weed management plan? I think I'm caught up in what is the difference there?
Absolutely. So Chris is correct. And again, in our findings and talking to Tiffany, I found that resolution is outdated. It needs to be updated because it does need to bridge this gap, right? It's something that city council committed to. It is out of date. So my recommendation is to update a resolution while we develop a weed management plan and apply the approvals, the directive from you all, because that plan will need to come to you, and then approvals through city council. So in my previous slide, the 2026 improvements is next spray season. So all of those listed, which is also those listed there in recommendation number 2, are the process improvements that we're recommending for the 2026 spray season. And with that said, calendaring it into agenda items that could be a sliding date that may not get execution to, May of 2026, but we will work our hardest to get all of those and the weed management plan well underway.
So the citywide weed management plan will replace the city resolution when it's completed?
That is correct.
Okay.
And I'm going to look at Jenny, right?
And
Okay.
satisfies state law.
And then the spring seems like a reasonable timeframe to staff?
I believe that all of those, except for the one that would maybe cause us a little bit of delay, would be that weed management plan, only because now I'm going to need to get to city council to present this. I'm not sure when that agenda item will look good on to city council's agenda setting. So there's that. And then there would be then me collectively and collaboratively working with other departments. So getting on their schedules, because again, this is a citywide, not just a department. So scheduling out time to introduce this concept, the idea. I've reached out to Public Works and Fleet and Streets and letting them know that this is potentially happening, but not provided any sort of timeline. So in the sense of, would
There's a
you
lot
be
of moving
interested in collaborating? The answer was yes, but not discussing what scheduling and timeline might look like. And then, of course, there's a component there. We would like to also collaborate and have a review of working with the Routt County Weed Coordinator, Tiffany. I've had that discussion too. She can be that advisory and reviewer. So there's a lot of people and places that need to happen first before I can completely fully commit to it. But it would be our goal to get as much as we could accomplished by season, and for sure have it completed by the end of that season to be able to continue to put that into motion.
Should we put a no later than date?
Would that be realistic? I want to just check in with Angela to make sure, because she knows more agenda setting than I do.
Sure.
What would that date be?
April 1st.
That's soon? Okay.
Stephanie, what do you think of that?
Our spray season's May. So,
Yeah, I don't want to push into spray season. It would be a recommended date. So I want to give assurance to Parks and Rec Commission and the public that staff will work swiftly. Ultimately, the agenda setting is set by City Council. A new City Council will get sat in November. I would expect it to make it onto City Council sometime between November and January. It just depends what additional work they want to see done, if any, in that process.
And that can change because it's up to them to approve it, right?
Correct. What if we set a date of at least to be reviewed by City Council? To have it concluded, that's out of our control based on their wishes.
Right.
But I think staff can make a commitment to take it to City Council by a certain date and then to follow their direction.
And that would be April 1st?
I see no reason why we wouldn't be able to do it by April 1st. Yeah, when I proposed April 1st, I was thinking a conclusion. But
February,
that we are out of,
end of February?
yes, I'm good with end of February too.
Good with that. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm good.
I like it.
So basically what we're in, actually, we never asked if there was public comment online. I'm assuming there's not, looking here. So what we're looking at is basically number 2 with the added to be presented to City Council by the end of February. Correct?
I'm good with that.
Right. Well, I think I will make a motion here. Seems like we've gotten to this point. So I'm going to make a motion to recommend to the City Council that the Parks and Recreation Department maintain its current herbicide practices and include the outlined process improvements for the 2026 spray application season. to include 1 updated city resolution, 2 Routt County continued collaboration efforts, 3 pilot program, and 4 development of a citywide weed management plan, and then 5 on there to be reviewed by city council by the end of February.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, those are the options for what we can or can't do.
So we're basically
it's
deciding
not
between
3
1,
different-
2, or
Yeah, we're
3.
choosing between 1, 2, or 3.
It's, again, commission, your choice if you
Yeah.
would like to add anything more to any sort of recommendation that you're putting together for a motion.
I mean,
Good with that?
we could add upon completion of the pilot, a successful pilot program, that we move more into using the Cheetah Pro.
I think
And
that's,
my thought is maybe, I guess Parks and Rec Commission will continue to be updated on that, right?
Yeah.
And if it leads to a point where that changes the plan, then I think
yeah, we want
we
them,
can do
We
so.
amend,
we
we
want them
amend
to
the
have
plan.
flexibility to, I mean, I think the whole idea is to have flexibility to say, is this working or is this not? And the answer may be it not,
Right,
based on that particular
that's true.
control. And so this is,
I guess it was
I think this
wishful
keeps us on
thinking.
our path, provides the ability to amend. I think that's the idea.
Awesome.
Did you want to propose an amendment or?
No. Valid point.
Good work, team.
There we go. Nice job.
All right. Thank you all for
And thanks,
your
everybody.
attention, and thank you to the Park Open Space Trails team and
Yeah.
Angela for your support.
Now, thank you to Stephanie, Johannes, Jenny, Andy, and their team. I more than challenged them many times for tasks on this. I appreciate all your guys' work. Question for the commission. Sometimes when we have more complex topics like this, we have a Parks and Rec Commission representative attend the council presentation to give a voice to the discussions that were had and the views of the Parks and Recreation Commission. Would one of you be willing to attend, represent on this topic, assuming the dates work out? And if they didn't, we could ask for another one.
Can we volunteer somebody that's not here?
Probably not best since they are not here.
So good.
Between all of us, yeah, for sure.
All right,
Totally. Do it.
thank you. All right, I have a few updates for you. Along with the upcoming future meeting agendas, we will be adding one more to the November meeting. First off will be the Whistler Parkland acquisition. If anybody read in the newspaper today, we've been making great progress with the school district, and we thank the Board of Education for hearing us out. City Council did, in their budget retreat yesterday, keep $500,000 to continue with that. I have a tentative timeline, and I emphasize the word tentative. It means everything stays on track. So Tuesday, October 14th, next Tuesday evening, City Council is scheduled to have an executive session to provide myself and City Attorney Dan Foote direction to negotiators for that acquisition. If everything goes according to plan, Wednesday, October 15th, we would take the proposal to the Parkland Acquisition Committee, which Ben sits on, for their recommendation. Then tentatively, November 12th, it would come to you for your review and recommendation. Then it would go to City Council November 18th at their regular meeting for the first reading of a purchase agreement. And then lastly, Tuesday, December 2nd, it would be the second and final reading of the purchase agreement to City Council. Again, that's assuming everything moves according to plan and there's no hurdles, which I'll be shocked if we stick to this schedule right now. That's our tentative timeline. Do you guys have any questions on that or anything? Not to put you on the spot, you can email us and let us know afterwards too, but anything you would want us to bring to you when you consider this at your next meeting for a recommendation?
Haven't seen the article, but basically it's just, can you give me like a down and dirty on it?
Yeah, so Whistler Park, as the community knows it, is essentially made up of three different property owners: the city of Steamboat Springs, Mount Warner Water, and the school district. The school district owns 9.2 acres, actually a large majority of what the community refers to as Whistler Park. The property line essentially cuts off right at the playground and goes at an angle. All of the property, so essentially 2 ball fields over towards the neighborhood, is school district's property. Historically, they've looked at using the land to build a school. That wasn't well supported by the neighborhood, so that's when they went and built Sleeping Giant. And then more recently, the school district looked at building employee housing to house their teachers and educators. They also are moving forward with a Sleeping Giant site for that housing project. To help fund their housing, they're looking to sell their Whistler property. Monday afternoon, they approved a resolution authorizing Dr. Celine Wicks to sell it at the appraised value. They were great partners to us over the summer, met with city staff. They used our recommended appraiser, which is great because the state realistically really only looks to one appraiser for GOCO grants. So they were willing to hire that person who did their prior appraisal. We got the updated appraisal last week at 3.6 million, 200,000 more than the appraisal done about 1.5 years, almost 2 years ago. So pretty in line. Legally, the city cannot pay more than appraised value. And the school board authorized Dr. Wicks to sell it for appraised value. So that's a pretty big win for the city. Yep. So Tuesday night, staff will be presenting to city council in executive session, potential funding plans. We're envisioning a good amount of community and private fundraising would need to go into effect with this, as well as some grant opportunities to help come up with 3.6 million.
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Does
We
Mount
hope to
Warner,
bring all of that to you at your November 12th meeting.
does Mount Warner Water District come into play at all, or no?
Not right now, no. Any conversations we've had with them, they want to retain their property, and they continue to have lease agreements with us to utilize it. All right, that was my big update. Like we mentioned, we had our 2026 budget retreat. We've kind of hit the highlights. We will have a in-depth, and we will try to make it entertaining conversation about the budget in November to give you a highlight of big projects that will be coming up, what our service levels will look like for 2026, et cetera. And you already heard about the second sheet of ice update. Other thing just to highlight for you, the Howelson Hill season passes are on sale, and we are in the midst of our winter hiring. So if you know of any folks who want to work at Howelson Hill for the winter, we're ready for their application. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Good.
What's next? All right. We covered all?
Yeah.
All right. Does anyone want to make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I move to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All right.
All in favor?
Wow.
Bye.
Aye.
Good job, you guys.